This cabin is very nice, but you know, the decor is not my style. Got some CDs, fireplace. I brought a couple games. Kitchen. Nice kitchen. You can kind of see it, but there's a little stairwell that leads down to the lake or the dock. I'm talking about going kayaking tomorrow. Guess we'll see what happens. Out here on the front porch. It's like a shed. I heard loons out here yesterday, but the bugs are really bad. Flies are really annoying. So I haven't been outside reading. Get out of my fucking hair. It's supposed to be almost 100 degrees later today. Right now it's like 85 or so. Yeah. Saturday night, we're leaving in the morning. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not tired, so I'm watching old episodes of South Park on cable. Ooh, alright. It's Sunday evening. I am home. I'm very tired. I have a headache. So I've been putting off doing this since I got home. But duty calls. Let's go through the stuff I read this week. First, Leaving the Sea, story collection by Ben Marcus. I did a video standalone on this because this was my result for BookTube Spin, the second round of BookTube Spin, which is a event organized by Rick McDonnell. I'll drop a link to the video of this in the comments. So this is a story collection. It's got some stories that are more experimental in style like you would expect from Ben Marcus. It's also got a lot of stories that are more conventional, which I found to be really interesting. I really enjoyed this a lot. 4.5 stars. Check it out. I read this. Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. I'm going to say up front that I think this is the best thing I've read all year, for me. This is my favorite thing I've read this year. This is a novel that takes place in a small town in New Hampshire where young people are committing suicide in extreme numbers. The plot centers around this boy named Tyler, who is like 17 years old, sort of drugged out, loner type kid, and it's told from 3 different first-person perspectives, where each section gives the name at the beginning of whose perspective it's going to be. There's Amir, Jill, and Lou are the 3 narrators, who all are sort of circling around Tyler in various ways. Amir is his best friend, and they have sort of casual sex with each other as well. It's never outrightly said that he's gay, but he expresses sort of disdain for women. At one point he has a girlfriend but has no interest in having sex with her, and they break up because of it. And he does a lot of drugs and eventually sells drugs with Tyler. Then you've got Jill, who's Tyler's girlfriend. She's sort of a goth girl, also does a lot of drugs. Her and Amir really don't like each other at all. I think that they're kind of pitted as, in contest for his affections, basically. And then the third character is Lou, who is a really interesting character where in the thing here you see it's Lou, L-U. And Jill refers to Lou as Lou, L-U, using she, her pronouns. But then other people will refer to Lou as L-O-U, using he, him pronouns. It's unclear, it's never concretely established which is the one that Lou themselves prefers. I'm not sure. But Lou is this extremely sheltered kid who has extremely religious parents who keep them from interacting with basically anyone, and Lou's only friend is Jill. And they've known each other for a long time. And Lou is obsessed with this online forum that revolves around these suicides. That's all populated by people from the town. And so basically, it's about all these kids dealing with this suicide epidemic. At the same time, this sort of new drug that you can get at like head shops, a la Salvia in the 2000s, called Whorl, becomes popular, that you can either dip or smoke, and it's a hallucinogen, and it may be a key to these sort of magic, that's with a CK, rituals that are practiced both by Tyler and by other characters throughout the book, and may possess or enlighten you to sort of what is on the other side of death, and what the value of the human soul is. This book reminded me a lot of my own book that I wrote, which also revolves around young people doing lots of drugs in a small sort of suburban town. So it sort of spoke to me on a pretty personal level. I really loved the characters a lot. I thought that they were all very well fleshed out and felt very real. I liked how there was a lot of queerness and things like that, but it wasn't. I feel like a lot of the times it's almost like fetishized. Like when books have queer characters, it's like, this is a gay book, and this is a book that's just a book, but it has like queer characters. Like almost every character is queer in some way, which I found to be really refreshing and realistic to life. I'm going to make a standalone video where I talk more about this, but yeah, I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. It is extremely good. It gets categorized as horror, I guess you could call it that, but I probably would not. And the second I finished it, I went online and I ordered this, Amygdalatropolis, B.R. Yeager's first novel. This is a novel it's much shorter. It's only like 150 pages long. Negative Space is like 350 pages long. And Amygdalatropolis is inspired by Yeager's time on places on the internet like 8chan and the dark web, other Chan boards on the dark web. And yeah, after reading Negative Space, I was like, I'm ready for more. So I'm going to be reading this very soon. Very excited to read this. Immediately after I finished that, I read in one sitting The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. This also is one of the best books I've read this year. Friday was a good day. I finished negative space, and I read this all in one sitting. This is the first Dennis Cooper that I've read. I am feverish to read more after reading this, though. I just loved this book. This is a book that centers around the story of a young male escort, gay male escort named Brad, and his boyfriend / handler Brian. And it's told all through a website where Johns can review their escorts that they hire. So at the beginning, you are presented with this sort of, I mean, the very beginning you can see here is just like their email address, where did you find them, etc., etc. Do they have facial hair? Do they have pubic hair? What is their dick size? And then there's like a review. And so the opening sort of first section of the book is all these reviews where people are reviewing Brad. And then the more reviews there are, the more people are like, I want to see what the fuss is about. And this mythology of Brad and Brian begins to grow. And it's sort of like Brad is presented as this young kid who like wants to die and may potentially like be willing to be in a snuff film. Then it changes over and it becomes a discussion message board where people are just talking about Brad and Brian. And then eventually, in the end part of the book, Brad and Brian come back and we have more reviews for them. The sort of overarching theme of this book is that no one is who they seem because it's the internet. Myth gets made on the internet because people can lie. And so you will find out that like multiple screen names are actually one guy pretending to be multiple people. Eventually, Brad may not be the same Brad as the beginning Brad, and Brad may be multiple people, or Brian may be pretending to be someone else, and it's at its heart it's a mystery, and you sort of are given these pieces of raw information that you glean a narrative and a mystery through, and it feels like how it feels to read the internet. And it's fascinating because this was written in 2004, which was, I mean, not like the beginning of the internet, but certainly in the early days of the internet. And for a book to feel like so on the nose, capturing what the internet feels like and what internet mysteries feel like, very impressive. I will say, as a word of warning, this book is extremely graphic, both in sex and in violence. While I was reading it, I kept on sort of exclaiming or moaning or laughing, and my friends who I was with would be like, oh, what now? And I'd be like, oh, well, they just cut this guy's nuts off and made him eat them, and blah, blah, blah. So, like, this was one of the first sections that made me, like, laugh from just how graphic it was. I've had teenage tail all over the world, and Stevie's ass, Stevie is a pseudonym for Brad, is in a category all by itself. His years as a heavy bottom have damaged it beyond repair, but you could say the same thing about the Grand Canyon. In looks, smell, and taste, it's one of the true wonders of the world. I recommend doing him with the lights on, because you can stretch the elastic and look all the way into his beautiful pulsing guts. I sucked and chewed that hole until my jaws were sore, then gave it a fierce jackhammer fucking until I climaxed twice inside of him. So if explicit to the point of kind of gross gay sex is not your thing, I would not recommend this book. Also, there's like parts where people are tortured and murdered and like eat shit and eat their balls, and it's pretty extreme. This is another one I'm going to make a standalone video on, but if it sounds intriguing to you, I highly recommend it. After that, I read this from the library, Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin. Schweblin is an Argentinian author. This is her debut novel. It's a couple years old. It concerns a woman who is dying in a hospital, and she is having a conversation with a young boy. Through this conversation, it's revealed that this woman was on vacation and befriended the woman who lived next door to the house she was staying in, and then the son of that woman is the boy who she is talking to. And basically you get this fever dream recollection of this previous day or so leading up to the events that are causing the narrator to be dying. This book was okay. It didn't blow me away. I felt like all the characters were kind of flat, and just didn't really grab me. Nothing particularly exciting happens in the book. It's not poorly written by any stretch of the imagination, but it just there wasn't any real hooks pulling me along. I was mostly propelled by the fact that it is so short. I read the whole thing in 2 hours. I've seen people be kind of lukewarm on this. I've seen other people be more in favor of it. I'm more on the lukewarm side, so yeah, it was fine. 3 stars. And then yesterday I read Suicide by Edouard Leve. This is a very short little novella. It's like 115 pages long or so. And it's notable because it's called Suicide. It's about suicide. And 10 days after he submitted the manuscript for this book to his publishers, Leve committed suicide. It is very, very hard not to then take this as a sort of declaration of intent and a summation of an author's thoughts about suicide created as a lead up to his own suicide. And so I was surprised that I was so lukewarm on this. It didn't, to me, really say anything new or insightful on the topic. It didn't feel like I gained an insight from reading it. A lot of it was pretty dull. It focuses on the suicide of Leve's childhood friend who had killed himself about 20 years prior, and it's sort of a meditation on that. But then there are these extended sections, like there's a part where he goes on vacation to play a concert and wanders through this town and interacts with people and stuff that Leve could never have known. That's all probably fictional or even possibly autobiographical. But there's never a point where it feels like Leve makes his grand statement. It feels very quiet and hushed, and maybe that's the point, but it just didn't do it for me. So, yeah, this is okay. 3 stars. And yeah, so that's everything I finished this week. 5 books total this week. I am now reading Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut because that is his first book, and I am doing the Read Every Book by challenge on Kurt Vonnegut, so I will be reading every Kurt Vonnegut book. Yeah, that is my wrap-up for this week. I am very exhausted, so I'm going to throw this together and get it up there on the internet. I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you've read any of these books, comment below, particularly if you've read Negative Space or The Sluts, which I absolutely adored. I know Juan from Plagued by Visions has read The Sluts, and he commented on my Goodreads review of it, so he's a fan of it too. If you're a fan of him and the stuff that he recommends, we both give this one a thumbs up. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.